Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on the FDA Accreditation Scheme for Conformity Assessment, the ASCA pilot program. This program was developed last year around, I think, the third, fourth quarter of 2020, and we were initially approved by the FDA to start accrediting laboratories for this pilot program. And this program is for really two different areas for medical device testing, one for biocompatibility and also for basic safety and essential performance. Next slide. My name is Tracy Surzan. I'm going to be assisting my program manager, Kelly Ramos, today. So I will be partially presenting and also, again, the MC. But I wanted to formally introduce Kelly as the presenter for our webinar today. Kelly has been an integral part of our accreditation program for this particular area, but also for our medical lab program as well. Kelly is currently pursuing her master's in public health from Central Michigan University. She joined our company, PJLA, in December 2019. Again, as our medical program manager, but also does work in some general testing areas. Since her start at PJLA, she has helped launch the FDA ASCA pilot program and works closely with our 15189 medical assessment team. Kelly is also lead assessor for 15189 and ISO 17025, where she specializes primarily in the QMS area. And Kelly's previously worked in clinical laboratory settings where she worked in processing and collecting samples. Okay, so just to go over what we're going to talk about today in our webinar, I don't envision this being more than maybe about 30 minutes. But what we wanted to educate everyone on is if you haven't had the opportunity to join the FDA on some of their webinars, we wanted to educate our clients or interested parties on what the ASCA program is and the process. The additional requirements, we're going to talk about that because this program is really based on ISO 17025 and the accreditation body's policies. But what the FDA has done is for their two different programs for basic safety and for biocompatibility, they evaluated the ISO 17025 standard and said that they needed, to add to certain areas of the standard to get more specific with what they want to see. So we'll go over that and expand on what those requirements are, and then we're going to talk about the benefits of being an ASCA accredited laboratory. Next slide. Okay, just some webinar housekeeping. So this webinar is going to be recorded and will be available as usual on our website shortly after we're finished here today. If you haven't noticed, everyone is muted. So please utilize your questions toolbar during any time during this webinar. We are going to have about 10-15 minutes after the completion of Kelly's presentation, and for you to answer any questions that you might have. But again, you don't have to wait. You can go ahead and put those questions in at any time. Okay, with that, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Kelly. Go ahead, Kelly. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Thanks for the introduction and welcome everyone today. So I'll just start with the FDA pilot program and just some general knowledge about the involved parties and kind of a little bit about the standard here. So the FDA ASCA pilot program is a voluntary conformance standard for medical device testing laboratories. These laboratories typically are testing for pre-submission devices from medical device manufacturers. Many of the laboratories that we've come in contact with are testing for other things as well, but as far as the FDA ASCA pilot program, they only cover testing on medical devices. There's a few participants. As an accrediting body, we are recognized by the FDA to perform assessments for the FDA pilot program. There are other things that we do to participate in the pilot program. We go to meetings every month. We communicate with our assessors, and the FDA also provides our assessors and our assessment team, as well as our accreditation staff, with training. So we are up to date on all of the most up-to-date information for the program. The testing laboratories are participants who choose to participate in the pilot program. They also use testing laboratories, conformance standard communities, and medical device testing manufacturers. They used all of that different parties to contribute to the formation of this policy as well. So that's where the device manufacturers come in here. They also participate in the standard, and the FDA staff, of course, supports all of this. The standard is used in conjunction, like Tracy mentioned, with the ISO IEC 17025-2017 requirements as well. And I'll go over how that supports that program. For your steps to accreditation, so I just wanted to go over the process in order to obtain accreditation for the FDA ASCA pilot program. As a testing laboratory, you'll select a recognized accreditation body. This is available, this information is available on the FDA website. That will be available in our references from this PowerPoint. And you can also reach out to really anyone at the FDA or at the accrediting bodies, and we can help you through that process as well. The assessment includes an assessment to the ISO IEC 17025 requirements, as well as ASCA pilot specifications. If you're not already accredited to 17025-2017 standards, then that would be part of your accreditation. After the assessment, the laboratory would apply to the FDA for ASCA recognition. There is a request for materials from the FDA, from the laboratory, the testing laboratory, at the time of submission. Common materials that I've heard of that are asked from the testing laboratory, we turn in, as our accrediting body, we turn in reports as far as an accreditation report. We turn in a final NCR. If there's any non-conformances, we release those to the FDA. And then in addition to that, the FDA asks for supporting materials from the laboratory. They could ask for SOPs, test procedures, and test report, and some other assessment materials are submitted, and those are all reviewed before the FDA recognizes the laboratory as ASCA accredited. However, your accreditation certificate will be issued to you at the time of your accreditation from your accrediting body, so you would have that at the time that you submit to the FDA. Once you're approved as a testing laboratory, the FDA grants recognition and puts you on the FDA website, so you're published on their website for device manufacturers to see which testing laboratories are participating in the pilot program. So I wanted to go over the consensus standard methods. There are 91 standard methods that are recognized in the ASCA pilot program. As a testing laboratory, you would be performing one or more of those standard methods and be submitting that as your scope that you would like to become accredited for. These consensus standard methods are on the FDA website in a database. I did link it in this PowerPoint, so you could click on that and make sure. They really did ask us, and the FDA really hammers home to us that any laboratories that are interested should be looking at the database and making sure that they have the most up-to-date methods. We can't, accredit a laboratory that doesn't have the method that is listed on that database, as well as the most current version of that method. The FDA database has a list of the consensus standards. I just went over that. And then there's specific guidance as well on the FDA website that's very valuable. It has both biocompatibility and basic safety and essential performance guidance separated out into two separate guidance documents. The biocompatibility testing on medical devices basically, goes over how and the different consensus standards that are there for the methods for biocompatibility portion of the standard is how the medical device affects the body. Certain methods that are included, this is just an example, there's direct and indirect hemolysis, cytotoxicity, and skin sensitization. So there are a lot of methods in addition to those, but those are examples of the biocompatibility testing methods. For basic safety and essential performance, you're looking at a lot of electrical testing for medical equipment. Okay, so as we mentioned before, all the laboratories must obtain the ISO IEC 17025-2017 accreditation, as well as conform to the accrediting body of their choice. If it's PJLA, then our policies that strengthen that accreditation process. The FDA chose accrediting bodies because we have certain things that we conform to through our ISO standards and through our own affiliations. And we expect and require all the laboratories to conform to our PJLA policies. I did link a link in this PowerPoint to go back to the PJLA website that lists all the policies. I wanted to go over PL1 because PL1 goes over our proficiency testing requirements that we have for PJLA and that are also recognized for the ASCA pilot program. What we require is we require a testing laboratory to perform PT on one scope item per year. The laboratory is also required to perform PT on the entire scope of accreditation over a 4-year period. The different types of proficiency testing that PJLA deals with and that we accredit to is third-party testing, inter-lab testing, intra-lab, and repeatability testing. If you're a laboratory who performs intralab or repeatability studies for their PT performance conformance, then you would need to make sure that you are granted approval by PJLA before you go for your accreditation. And that's something that we would talk about at the time of application into one of our assessments. But just so you're aware, it would be something that's required for approval process. So the ASCA pilot additional requirements for biocompatibility, these are requirements that were put in amongst the 17025 requirements. So you have the entire 17025 accreditation process, and then you have the PJLA policies, and then in addition to that, there's ASCA criteria that was added in and that is also in those guidance documents for different areas of the laboratory and different areas of the QMS system and technical areas that need to be met for the ASCA criteria. So some of those areas are sample preparation. Personnel and training qualifications is a very robust area that they expanded upon. And there are different specific requirements depending on the methods that you're choosing to get accredited to. There's positive and negative control criteria, and then test and report requirements. So additionally to these requirements from the ASCA pilot program, if you are applying for biocompatibility portion of the standard, then there are also different areas of 21 CFR 58 that the laboratory is required to meet. I listed them here, and those would also be a separate conformance that's included into the ASCA pilot. So just to go over some goals for the ASCA pilot program and kind of what the FDA foresees as different areas of support that this program provides. For the FDA, it makes the market submissions from medical device manufacturers. It makes it a more effective process. They have said, and it is also in some of their publications about this pilot program, that once a pre-market device manufacturer is able to provide a ASCA accredited testing report, there shouldn't be any further information needed about the testing laboratory if they're already participating in the ASCA pilot program. They're accredited to those requirements. So for the device manufacturers, obviously it makes it easier for them for pre-market submissions, and it's more likely that they would choose a laboratory that's published on the FDA website that already partakes in the ASCA program. For consumers, the end user, which would be your patients out there, that those patients are able to rely on safe and reliable products, which is the overall goal for the ASCA pilot program. to make sure that the testing laboratories are, conforming to a standard that creates quality and reliable results for the end user to rely on. These are some references. I mentioned many of them. These are links to the conformance standards for the FDA, as well as the PJLA documents that provide all of our PJLA policies, a lot of our readiness checklists for accreditation schemes, including 17025 2017. I also put in for the ASCA accreditation bodies that are recognized under the FDA ASCA program. There's a link here for that. And I think lastly, I want to say I put in another one for the FDA media is overall information about the program, the FDA pilot program there. So thank you so much for listening to the presentation. I think there's time for questions. I'm going to mute myself and I'll come back on to answer those questions. I believe Tracy is going to read them, if there are any.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Just wanted to add a few things that came to my mind during your presentation too. That that we get a lot from the laboratories that are interested in participating in this program, and this is just some overall feedback. So laboratories that are testing in the either biocompatibility or basic safety area. If you notice, if you look at the FDA ASCA program right now, it's just a pilot program, and they chose a certain list of test methods that they want to incorporate right now. So if you are a medical device testing facility, regardless of your basic safety or biocompatibility, I would assume that down the road that you will be able to participate in this program with the methods you currently have on your scope of accreditation. So like Kelly had mentioned, that when you apply to the FDA or you apply to your accreditation body, ensure that it's for the test methods that they currently have available now. And if you're interested, if you do have any of those methods that are part of this program, contact us. Let us know that you're looking to add this ASCA program to your accreditation, to your 17025. Again, it's additional requirements to what we're already looking at. We've had some laboratories just asked us to come out to do a separate scope expansion just to add ASCA. So we do recommend before you choose a date with us that you are looking at those additional requirements, particularly section 6.7 are the heaviest part of the 17025 standard, what they added to. It's not, but again, it's not too difficult for some of the medical labs that we've accredited so far, because a lot of them have had this certain practice inside their laboratory for years, being approved with the FDA for other things that they're doing. Okay, so with that, I will entertain any other questions that any questions we might have. Kelly, if you have anything else to add to that, I'll give it a few seconds. I don't see a lot of questions that popped in at this point. Okay, next slide. If I see anything pop in, I'll try to answer those real quick. I'm sorry about the swirling words here. So just want to bring everyone's attention to a couple more webinars we're doing this month. We've been pretty busy. We have one in a couple of days with Mike Kramer, our 17025 calibration, and also our 17020 inspection manager. He's going to be talking about 17020 and the overall requirements. And then later on in the month, we have Doug Berg, who is our reference material producer, proficiency testing program manager, who's going to be talking about RMP implementation. So please register for those. Anticipate them probably being anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. And again, they'll be available at the end of those sessions as well if you don't have the time to join those. Next slide. Here's our contact information, myself and Kelly, if you have any particular questions that might come up. I'm going to double check for questions one more time. Okay. All right, next slide. Thank you. Okay, all right. Well, again, thank you everyone for participating today. Enjoy the rest of your week. And again, if you have any questions, please send us an email. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.